the paint and the mark making, so I wanted to keep doing like a whole series and keep the actual shape of the moths very sort of regimented and just see how much variety I can get in with the paints, pencils, whatever media I wind up using. So those are my stencils. I'm actually going to put those on my Patreon, which is free, so you can go and download those if you fancy having a try of this yourself. But last night I actually painted up cat hair ever presents, some of these, and I used the granulating paint, the little pot that I've just got recently, and that is, it's just the granulating paints. I've stuck to 2 for each one of the moths, and it's quite interesting. The only problem being that A, I've just hit the camera with the sketch pad, and B, so sorry for the shaky footage there, B, it's also, with this pad in particular, I'm going to look at what it is at the moment, the granulation has happened quite regimentedly in the grooves in the paper, which, I don't know, it gives it quite an interesting texture. I mean, I quite like it, but it'd be interesting to see what using these on a different paper will do. Also, I tried out another recent purchase, which is acrylic gouache. The I can't remember what the name of the acrylic gouache Holbein. I think it's a Japanese import. But I've heard so many people rave about this, about how great it is, how flat the colour, more cat hair. And yeah, that is pretty dreadful. And when you consider it next to the other 3, which are all done in regular old water-based gouache. But I was thinking about this last night. The different approach that I took is that I actually mix my own colours of gouache. These aren't straight out of the tube. And so I am wondering if I try to mix the acrylic gouache, will I have a better result? Because that really isn't flat colour, it's terrible. Okay, I'm going to mix up some paint and I'll be back. Oh, I've just spent ages talking to the camera thinking I was recording, and actually didn't realise that all the time I was recording was the time I thought I was turned off. Oh Lord. YouTube, eh? Right, the colour I used flat was this Viridian. So I added in some white, because obviously white always makes things more opaque. Really didn't like that colour. It was so sort of gaudy and brash, sort of like a very, very sort of neon jade colour almost. So I mixed that, and I still wasn't keen on the colour. It's just too bright. So I kind of knocked it back with a little bit of this. So yeah, 4 colours, all just to get this green, which is still a jade green. She says, smacking the camera with her glasses, but I think it's better than it was before, but it's not very flat or even covered. Certainly not. Oh look, you can see all the, it's differentiating as it's painting, as it's drying, sorry, you can see the different shades coming out. I really don't like this stuff. Nope. I think acrylic and gouache is a match made in hell for my money, but each to their own. Right, let's try something else. Right, so I've used a different stencil. I've used the one that I drew while looking at a swallowtail moth, and they don't have the big fluffy antenna, so I've left those off. And when I've been looking at the photograph again, because I'm doing this as a stencil, I've had to kind of fatten out some aspects of it. So I've kind of corrected them in the sketch. I just sketch them really lightly so that I can work over it and it'll just disappear. And it's also done with watercolour pencils, so it'll just disappear as I'm actually painting. And now I've actually gotten cat hairs all over my sleeve again, but I've also gotten a bit of the acrylic gouache in this paint water, so I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make. Let's just start and see what happens. I'm not actually trying to paint a swallow-tailed moth. I'm not trying to represent that in any way, but I just like the overall shape. So let's use that. And let's see how different this paper is. Try and do some sort of wet in wet. Not worrying about where the fur of the actual moth body is. Just sort of trying to bring in the kind of veining you find on moth's wings. Oh, that's very thick. Sort of outlining it in this thicker paint. Remember, these are granulating colours. This is the 775, so we're hoping that they are actually going to start granulating a bit more than they're doing here. But remember, this is the Moulin de Roy sketch pad, not the Winsor & Newton. So very likely to. This paper tends to be very smooth on this side, so it's possible that it's not going to granulate as much as it did on the Winsor & Newton pad. See as it dries. I'm going to try a different colour. I think I'll try the 774 for the lower wings, just to get a bit of contrast. I don't want them to bleed in too much. Go back to the 775 again for the bottom. Can do with it. Apologies if my breathing is quite audible as well, because I've actually got anemia and it being quite hot sat here in the window. I'm actually finding it a little bit hard to get my breath. I think that's actually quite nice the way that's separating. It's quite subtle. Do the same thing. Try not to get the two wings to bleed into each other too much. There we go. And then that was 774. Let's go back to 775 for the base of the wing. Tips of the wing. I don't know. How do moths refer to their wings? Who knows? A few years back I was living in Kerwis, which is a little town sort of up in the hills, very rural, and it's sort of surrounded by farmland, and I've got a tendency to always leave my landing light on at night when I go to bed. I used to get up in the middle of the night sometimes and there'd be like 20 moths fluttering around the light bulb. And then I just wound up with a fluttery landing, basically, pretty much the whole time that I lived there. I absolutely loved them. And that's where the name Flutty Moth came from, really. And the idea of them being quite a constant subject for painting try this. It should make the colour start to granulate more. I want to dry a bit. Let's try another one. Sorry. Right, let's have a look. 771 and 772, quite interesting. Let's try those. This is 772. I'm actually going to do the darker part up near the body. Oh, here comes a helicopter. You can hear that on the soundtrack. It's a lovely soundtrack for painting moths. Could actually do the other wing at the same time, the top wing. I'm not really aiming for any kind of symmetry. I realise that's probably quite a big deal for a moth, but you do see plenty of them fluttering around the place, and they've got bits chewed out of their wings and all sorts of things like that. And uneven coloration. Because nature, contrary to what we think, tends to be quite amazingly asymmetrical, I think. There are certainly plenty of examples you'll see out there. The big argument against that would be tigers and zebras, but yeah, moths. I've seen plenty of asymmetrical moths. I don't care what anyone says. Right. Yep, so far these are proving to be way smoother than the Winsor & Newton paper. Let's do... very close to each other, but when they granulate they become really different, and as it's not granulating that much, I wonder if it's going to look as though I'm just using the same paint for both. This is the 771. I do like the way it's going down there. I love this paper. A little bit of spray, see what that does. Okay, we'll come back to these when they've dried. As you can see, the paper's really buckling. I've gone crazy. I'm going to tape down the edge of this one as well, just in case. Okay, here's the top moth. Look at the way that's all behaved. And this one, the bottom one, when I sprayed it, this amazing thing happened, and you got the real sort of granulation there, the effect sort of coming out here. That's so lovely. I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to wind up covering it over, but I do love this. I might try and use it a little bit for the body, but I need to clean up those edges. But it is lovely. That is the gorgeous thing about watercolours, is the fact that they will do what they want. The more water you introduce, the more sort of happy accidents you have. I suppose it depends on your style. If you're very controlled and you want the paint to only do what you want it to do, then I'm not sure watercolour is actually the best medium for you, unless you use it in a very thick way. But I mean, the real glory of it is the more water you introduce into the situation, the more it just does what it wants. It goes off in strange directions that you can't possibly predict. And then it's just trying to utilise it, just trying to bring it into your work, and sort of being happy with these unexpected elements.